So it's been a long time since I've done a video on my personal rig, editing rig slash gaming rig slash whatever else rig that I want to do on it at that particular time. So I think it's time to do something with my rig. We're going to be transplanting it from the current case it's in. It's just a very cheap case, or fairly cheap case. And we're going to put it in this Fractal Design case here that we've done a video on. Go and check that out quite a long time ago now. So we're finally going to be using it because, to be honest with you, I forgot I had it. And I'm also going to be swapping out my motherboard, going from B550 to X570. Not a huge upgrade, some of you might say, and that's fine. But there are some advantages to me swapping over to that, which I will go through later on in the video. So stay tuned and follow me as we swap everything over. So here it is. Where do we start? It's been a while since I've swapped over a case, but swapped over a PC into another case, but how hard can it be, right? So you can see that we've done some modifications to this case. We've colored some of the accent. We've done some accent colors on it, basically. If I tip the case over a bit, you can see, hopefully you can see that we've given it our kind of feel. We've given it the orange color. And that follows through down on the other side as well. We'll show you that a little bit later. And on the back there as well, you can see that. This is heavy though. Accent color there and accent colors on that part as well there. And on the front as well. We'll show you that a little bit later. I can't switch that around right this second. I can't remember what state this is in, so let's open it up and have a look, shall we? So, we have a motherboard. We have the X570, the Strix X570E gaming motherboard. And along with that, we have some Noctua fans. Now this was actually for another project. It was going to be given away, but unfortunately that project fell through. The company we're working for just decided to ghost us, so we were not able to give it away. So we're going to be using it. I've kind of had it left to one side for a while, actually, in the hopes that they might reach out again to reconnect, but that never happened. So we're going to be using it for mine now. Unfortunately, that's the way things go sometimes. So what we've got in here is 7 fans, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fans. They're all Noctua, and that will help with noise as well, obviously, because they're not too noisy, Noctua fans. We've got a 360 rad in here already, so that will be going, that will be staying. That's mounted on the top. And then obviously we've got loads of drive trays there, which we won't be using so much. We've only got one drive to go in here, one spinning disc that will be going in here, but it gives me the option to expand that for longer term storage if I wanted to do that, maybe backups or something like that, I don't know. The power supply is already fitted actually, just needs the power cables connected to it, and there's some extra RAM in here as well. Oh, hello. XPG Spectrix D60, 32 gig I think I had of this. God, this is from a long time ago. Just 32 gig just sitting there doing nothing. I don't know, we'll keep that. I'm sure we'll use that for something maybe. Accessories box. If you want to know the name of this, it's actually the Vector RS. It's the dark paneled one. As you probably noticed when I took it off, or when I showed you a moment ago, it's the darker panel. So I quite like that, because then RGB that's going to be behind it, and there will be some RGB in this. There'll be an LED strip and some other bits like that. The motherboard also has RGB on it as well. It's not going to be too in your face. It's going to be kind of tinted. So I think that will look really nice, and we'll hopefully see that at the end. All right, so it doesn't look like we've got to do too much work to get this thing up and running. Obviously we've got PSU cables, as I don't think they're connected. No, they're not actually connected. I/O as well, that's got to be connected. Basically the motherboard's got to be connected, all that good stuff. CPU cooler's got to be mounted there. The original brackets there have been taken out, so I'll need to find the backplate for the AM4 board there. We've got a front USB-C connector there, which is great, and that's the main reason that I actually want to do this, is because it's got front USB-C. That for me is quite good, because I do flight sim in VR, a good old fair amount. But this will mean that I have easier access to the USB-C rather than trying to reach around the back of the case, which can be really quite awkward, to be honest with you. So USB-C is actually on the top of the case. I don't know if I'm cut off or not, but it's basically here. So that gives me the option to do that. This isn't quite on properly. I must have put that on wrong. USB 3 and a power button and a reset button, or is that RGB as well? Not entirely sure. It might be, that might actually be an RGB button. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But yeah, I'm quite excited to get this, get my system built into this. So the X570 has the air cooled. It's got a fan there over the chipset, and that is good because at the minute it's really warm, and that will just give it that extra bit of cooling. Although to be fair, B550 doesn't really get that hot, so we'll see how that goes. Power delivery on this one is slightly better, not much better than my Gigabyte B550 Aorus Pro AC edition board, but it is what it is. That's what we're going to be using. So I'm gonna flip it over and have a look at the back and see what we've got on the other side. All right, so we've flipped it around and you can see the orange accent kind of follows down there. I've got to do a bit of repairing there because it's worn off where it's been in storage. Anyway, that follows down through and then down to the feet as well that you can see down the bottom. I haven't done the back feet yet, but I can take them off and do them anytime. So let's take the side panel off on this side of the case. Why is it not coming off? It's stuck. All right, let's try and pull this off. And I just had this off. Oh, okay, there we go. That was tight. All right, so on this side, we've actually got noise damping material there, which will help with noise dampening. So that's good. All right, not much to see on the back. We've got the I/O connections down the bottom here, all ready to go. That's quite a lot. That's actually not that much, to be fair. USB 3 chunky connection there, and the most important one is the USB-C connection, which I want. That's it. I don't know what that is. Looks like an RGB connector for the AIO. Back plate. So I don't have to go find one. It's there. Excellent. Also, we've got a fan controller. An RGB fan. Is it RGB or fan? Looks like just fan. Yeah, just a fan controller. 6 DC controlled fans, and then 3 PWM controlled fans there. And you've got a header and a SATA connection, which is really nice to see. And various tie down points on this, so we should be able to do half decent cable tidy job. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, I've already done a video on this case, so I'll put a link and you can go and check out that. It's a bit more in depth and it tells you about everything about this case, so I'm not going to go through that with you now. Okay, all side panels are off now. The top's off, the back end's off, obviously the other side's off as well, and it's still a bit of a mess. Now we've had to switch, well, I've had to switch the fans around so that the actual cable side of it is on the cable tidy side. The only thing I don't like about Noctua fans and the accessories that come with them is the cable. This cable here, it detaches really close to the fan itself, and these are really, really short. They're too short. They're too thick and they're too short. They need to be, I don't know, another 15 centimeters or so bigger than this to be of use anywhere in the case. And there's a lot of fans in this. I've had to actually plug the 3 fans for the radiator into the controller, the PWM controller here, and then I'm going to run that off of 1 PWM port on the board, on the motherboard itself, because they're not long enough. There's no other way to do it. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to plug 2 of these front fans in on the front of the case in and cable manage. It's not going to be a very good job, but luckily none of this is going to be visible from the other side, and it's only me that's going to see it. So I'm not too worried about that. I can probably just run them across like this if necessary and plug them into any ports that I can find. I managed to find a port for the bottom one, but these are not long enough to reach to any of the other ones down the bottom. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might even have to plug them into the DC controlled ones over there and just use 3 of the pins, not the 4. They'll still work. So flipping the case around, you can see that this is different from what it was a moment ago. We've had to put it back in its original location because where it was at the back on the other side, there was nowhere to mount a 3.5-inch hard drive, which I have one of. So I've had to put that entire thing back where it was because the drive cages, these drive cages don't fit anywhere else. I can't see anywhere else that they go, and they only mount that way round inside into these grooves here. It's actually really ingenious. It's a really, really simple way, and I can't figure it out right now. What's going on? Ah, there we go. Okay, so they just slot in like that. There's a screw on this side if you want to secure them properly, and there's also a screw hole on the back plate and the motherboard tray there, which is non-removable, I might add. And then they screw in, and they're really, really secure. And there you go, that's it, it's in just from one screw. And this little clip here. The problem is, I mean, that's great because it means all the cables are going to go on the other side, the cable tidy side of the case, and not be visible from this side. And it also means, if I just face away from you guys in a minute, I can cover them up with this. I can cover everything up with that and then screw that in, and it'll all look nice and tidy. Again, it's only me that's going to see it, so I may do that, I may not. I suppose it does give me the ability to plug in more hard drives if I want to. Now obviously we don't have to mount a 3.5-inch drive, we can put SSDs in these trays. So there is that option. And it comes with rubber grommets inside the bag, inside the box here, the accessory box. So it comes with 24 indeed. So that is plenty to be able to mount quite a good amount of hard drives there and SSDs. So we've got the different sizes there for SSD and hard drive, or these ones are for SSD, which I will probably use because then I don't have them visible here. So that's kind of, it's a bit annoying because I didn't really want to do that, but we are where we are and that's what I've had to do. So as I just said, I've got to mount the hard drives, SSD there, that can be mounted in one of these trays. I've got another tray already in there for the 3.5-inch spinning drive or rust drive. I've got ATX 12 volt and GPU power there waiting to be put in. I've had to flip the AIO over so that the tubes come down on the left hand side because I just think it looks better, and they can just kind of bend around like that, which is absolutely fine. I've already plugged the RGB in for that pump, so that can be tidied away in a minute, and then it will go kind of like that. I think that will be fine. Although to be fair, I didn't actually try it with the tubes going the other side. It would have probably hidden them out the way a bit better maybe, but maybe I can change that around if I don't like the look of it. As I said, it's only me that's going to see it, so I'm not overly worried about that. All right, let's get cracking and get these power cables plugged in, shall we? Okay, I think that's all the power cables connected. Already got the accessory power connected, did that earlier. And now it's time for front IO. Oh boy. So while we're on the subject of cable management, cable tidying, if that's what you can call what I'm doing, I got these a little while back, and you may remember from one of the videos earlier in the year, I said I was going to do a video on cable management. Well, we might as well integrate it into this one. So these are Velcro ties. Now it's 10 of each colour here. Not entirely sure which colour. I think probably black for this one. Maybe. Shame they don't do orange. Or maybe actually these. These are close to orange. I think I will use these ones. Yeah. Probably not going to be visible. In fact, I know they're not going to be visible from this side. But don't know how that comes out on camera, but it's close to orange. It's probably more yellow actually, but I think that's what I'm going to use. And we're going to use these in place of, well, in places where cable ties, plastic cable ties, In fact, if I do these in the visible areas and then do the cable ties where it's not going to be visible, that might make more sense actually. So I think that's what I'm going to do. These cable ties might be a bit too small. Let's see how we go. Nope, I think they might work. They're pretty small, but they're just about right for what I need for this side. And then we'll use the other ones, as I said, where it's a bit more visible. I think that will look good. If you can see them. Yeah, managed to get that one in. That was a bit awkward with those tiny ones, but that's better. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, this doesn't look right. This is what planning ahead does, or not planning ahead does. So I've cable tied that right down, and also this one as well, but they actually need to connect about halfway, about along here. So I'm gonna have to recut those, re-cable tie them, and make them come along this way. Again, you're not gonna see it from the other side. This is gonna be completely covered, so that's fine by me. But yeah, very important planning. Alright, so that is the front I/O routed right round there and down the bottom and then up. Got to connect it on the other side yet. Hopefully it's not too short now, so I haven't actually checked it yet. Still got the fan cables to sort out. Not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. Might not be able to connect them all straight away until I can get some more extensions. We've got that one there to sort out as well. I'm not happy about that one either. Now one thing, don't do what I do and forget to cut these off once you've cable tied whatever it is you're cable tying. Make sure you cut them off before you put it all back together. Kind of looks rubbish. All right, there we go. I think half of them flew off over the other side, but anyway, there we go. All right, so nearly finished with the front panel connectors. One tip for you guys, if you don't have a manual for your motherboard, I do, but I can't be bothered to find it right now. You can take a picture of the board, and if your camera is good enough on your phone, you can zoom in and see what headers are. Most motherboards come with a bit of plastic where you can just put them all in and then slot it all in one go. This is a thing that really needs to change on all motherboards these days. Shouldn't have to put in individual pins like this. It's a bit old school. They need to change it. There we go. That is, I think, all the front panel I/O plugged in. Discovered a bit of an issue earlier, well, I mentioned earlier about the fans, the Noctua fan extension cables, or the actual cables not being long enough at all. Luckily I've managed to find one, and it's also a splitter as well, so hopefully that will sort out two of the fans that I couldn't plug in. Means I'm not going to be able to cable management properly, but needs must, and that's kind of all we got, so that's what we're doing. Okay, now we can plug fan cables in. I've only got one to deal with. I managed to route the top front fan, plug it into the PWM header on the top of the motherboard, so that's that one. That's one less to worry about, and it's just a matter of these two, which should be fine because we've got this and they're going to be connected to the same port. So actually, in hindsight, I probably could have left these cable tidied down the bottom where I disconnected them earlier. So yeah, it's always good to just double check everything before you start, and you don't run into the problems that I have. There we go. Let's just tidy those up. Put the CPU and GPU in. I think, other than some of the power cables, connect all that up. I think that's pretty much it. We're nearly there. Okay, I think it's just the hard drives, NVMe drives obviously, that's got to go on the board, CPU, graphics card, and plug the power into those. So putting on the anti-vibration pads for a spinning drive is a good idea, because it can actually vibrate through the entire case and cause a really low level kind of hum depending on the state of the drive. Some people can pick it up, some people can't. I can, so I put these on, and you can see there, you can't even see the screws. They're kind of inside the rubber grommet, and I haven't done them up fully tight, because what you actually want is you want the drive to be able to move. You can see there it's moving. It's not fully really tight up like you would screw a hard drive normally up against this metal plate here. You want it to move, because that's what the anti-vibration pads are for. So any movement will be taken away, hopefully. At least that's the plan anyway. Okay, so basically any other cables that aren't plugged into anything, if you've got space to hide it, that's my tip. Hide it somewhere where it can't be seen. Pretty much everywhere under here is not going to be visible from the other side, so we're all good to hide it here. Obviously, your case and mileage may vary. All right, so it's a bit different, isn't it? The drive's in, the graphics card's in, the fans are in the right way, as we already discussed a moment ago. CPU is in, power cables are in, hard drives are all connected, everything's pretty much ready to go. Apart from one little issue that I had, that I've had to find a really janky way of doing it. And I know you all like janky, so this is going to be extremely janky. This is an Asetek pump, and as you can see, it's got the Asetek branded logo there. So this was sent for a project a little while back, along with this case. Unfortunately, they didn't send the standoffs for the motherboard. So I've had to come up with either a very stupid way or a very ingenious way of getting it mounted onto the board. And hopefully it actually fits, because I haven't test fitted it yet. So what we have is the standoff. Hopefully you can see that. And I hope that's the right size. We'll find out in a minute. And what I'm going to do is I've got a washer. I'm going to put that over the top, because normally on the proper ones, I don't have one to hand because they're all in systems being used at the minute. It kind of has a, I don't know what you would call it. It looks like it's basically what I would call a nut. It kind of goes over that. It's got a hole in the middle, and it sits over kind of like that. And then you screw that into the board. Because if you don't have that bit on there, you screw that into the motherboard, into the back plate tray for the CPU, which kind of clamps it all together, the cooler and the CPU and the board, it clamps it all together, then there's going to be movement there. So what we have to do, we have to basically pack that out. So what I'm going to do, this is where it gets janky. We have to put that on like that. I don't know whether you can see that. And then put another washer on the top. These are brass. And then that goes on the top, and you can just about see there's a tiny little bit of thread at the top there. But that's fine, because that's all we need. That will screw over the back plate, the CPU back plate, and all will be good. And then I'll be able to mount the CPU. I have one on it already, and it kind of fits. So I'm hoping that's going to work. I did say it was going to be janky. Oh no, I can't get it off. So if I just remove the one I've already put on very carefully, just so I can show you what it's going to actually look like against the back plate of the AM4 socket. So this is the back plate that I was talking about. The washer will kind of go over that. Obviously the board is going to be between this and the motherboard and the back plate, so that will go over there, that will go over there, kind of like that, and then this will screw in like that, and then that gap that you see there, hopefully you can see that, that's not straight, but it will be straight once it's put on properly. So I do have to make sure it's straight. So that will go, basically that gap there is where the motherboard sits, and this will compress them together so that I get good contact, and that's what we want, because it is to do with CPU cooling. So it's really, really important that is strong enough, and it makes good contact between the CPU cooler and the CPU. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully that works. I don't know, what do you think? Is it going to work? Comment down below. I really hope they fit. Okay. So if you were to buy a new kit to do what I'm doing here, it would cost you about 15 Great British pounds to buy the screws, and you get the mounting, basically the entire mounting kit for a Acertech type pump. So that's, well, it's various brands that use Acertech for their pump, but yeah, 15 quid. And obviously you can get that next day, but I need this up and running today, so I don't have that luxury. Oh boy, let's see if this works. Now it's already got pre-applied thermal paste, so that's something we don't need to worry about. I said this is just a test fit. I need to make sure that the copper plate there makes contact with the actual CPU. That is the most important thing, and it makes proper contact with it as well, because I do not want the CPU overheating, especially when I'm going to be eventually upgrading this to a 5800 X3D, hopefully. That's the plan anyway. It feels like it is touching it because I've got resistance there, so, and it's kind of stuck. Yeah, I think it is. I just hope it's making enough contact. Yeah, they've got a splodge of paste there, which I put on there to make sure that, well, I could tell it was making contact then. Yeah, cool. That is going to fit perfectly. Right, I'm going to go ahead and mount this, and hopefully the system will be up and running. Hopefully. It's looking really good, actually. Obviously, we better tell much better with the temps, and that will be the thing that gives this away, whether it's making proper contact or not. I'm pretty confident, actually. Yes, it's definitely on, and it's secure, and it's touching the CPU. So that's that bit out of the way. Not really sure. Yeah, I think it would have been better twisting, having the tubes on that side, kind of out of view. I might still do that. Trying to cable tidy the CPU cables, or the CPU block cables. It's not an easy job to kind of move them out of the way. Luckily that's not too long, so that one is going to go here, but then I've got that mess of cable to get away, or to tidy away. That's plugged in, and make it as less visible as possible. Not easy, I can tell you. Okay, that looks a bit better. The cable goes, you can only see that bit there, you can see a little bit of it there, but it's kind of underneath the CPU block there. And it's just that bit. And then you've got a little bit going up there, so it's not too bad. All in all, I think that's okay. As I said before, it's only me seeing it, so, and I'm fine with that. That's it. There's no clips at the bottom on this board. You literally slot them in, and then it's only the top clips that actually lock into place on the Asus board here. Now you're probably wondering, going from B550 to X570, what's going to happen to the system? Because I haven't actually uninstalled any drivers from the old Gigabyte board, so all that is still going to be on there. This will be a good test for Windows 11 actually, to see how it copes with a motherboard change. Yeah, anyway, let's try and power this thing up and see what happens, how Windows 11 copes with the change. Obviously Windows is going to have to be reactivated, that's fine, it's not a problem. I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. TPM is on the CPU, so that should all be good. I don't think the key is stored on that. I think it's stored in the BIOS, in the UEFI BIOS. So we will definitely, most likely, have to activate Windows again. But that's okay. The main thing is that I get a picture and it boots. Everything else I can sort out afterwards, like drivers and such like. That's if Asus doesn't try and bombard me with its own installer and to download all the drivers, because I tend to download them myself. So, and we all know what happens when companies inject EXEs into your Windows System 32 folder, don't we? I think we're good to go. So everything's plugged in, as you just saw. Let's fire it up, make sure I've got the power button plugged in the right way around. Monitor's ready to go. No power. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't turn it off. Didn't turn it on. There we go. Oh, we have power. RGB on the cooling there at the back. I might have plugged in the power button the wrong way around. Okay, I've swapped the power cable around on the front panel I/O connectors there. So let's see if that worked. No. It's time to bring out the manual. Okay, so I've got the reset button in the wrong place, so it's possible that's causing it not to boot. There is no hard drive LED on this, so nothing is plugged into that. I'll try and show you in B-roll, but there's literally another 4 pins directly above the front panel connectors. It's the speaker connection, but it's, let me just show you on there. It's literally directly above it. It doesn't show it really there, but it is literally right next to it. And if you're not looking properly, as I clearly wasn't, I actually plugged the power LED and the power button into the speaker connection. So yeah, no wonder it wasn't turning on. Let's try it now. Hallelujah, what do you know? Reading the manual is a useful thing. It will take a little bit longer on its first boot up. And this is literally the first time this board has been booted in a few years. Good thing about this one is, I don't know if it can be seen, it's got a post LED display there. So at the minute it's saying OD0D. Let's have a look in the manual while we're waiting for that. See what 0D is on the diagnostic display. And we've got an amber LED light as well. But again, it could still be just figuring stuff out. It might even restart a few times, or I will need to do a BIOS update for it to recognize the 3800 XT, which is highly possible. As I said, this board hasn't been booted in a few years, and I don't think the 3800 XT was around then. So, and for most motherboards, it definitely did need a BIOS update to make that chip work. The 3800X was fine, but the XT needed a BIOS update. I think that's what we're seeing here. Okay, so in the manual, it says the Q code 0D, well, in fact, it says 0C to 0D is reserved for future AMI-SEC error codes. Really not helpful. But as I said, I think it's a BIOS update. We've got an orange light, which I can't actually see. So let's have a quick look, see what that is complaining about. I suspect that's CPU. It's complaining about RAM. So what I'm going to do is power it off and take out the RAM. I did put them in the right order, pretty sure of it. Yeah, it's looking more like it needs a BIOS update to make the CPU work. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and download that and try again. So the BIOS update worked. Yay! It was literally just that. There was a few other issues with the RAM timings as well. For some reason that just would not work, but it is working now. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the outside and my half bodge job cable management, and then I'll show you the system up and running, just so you can see that I didn't just bung it all together in the hopes that it would work. Well, actually that's not true. I kind of did do that. Anyway, let's just show you around. All right then, here we are. This is my not very so good cable management job. As you can see, there is cables crammed down the bottom there where the power supply actually is. There's only so many places you can actually hide these things. To be fair though, there is a lot of tie down points. There's many places where you can actually put cable tie through, which I have done for the most part. Tidied this bit here where I plugged the 3 fans for the AIO cooler at the top there, as I showed you earlier. Not using the DC side of the fan part on this controller here because I wanted them all PWM controlled, or as far as possible anyway. Power cables and all the other things that I've got going down this central column here where the Fractal Velcro straps are. Very handy actually, very good of those, but only 2. Drives, as I showed earlier, the drive cage is actually been moved to the front, and you'll see the other side in a moment. I put the drives on this side, so all the cables are on this end, which you won't see because it was going to be completely covered up in a minute anyways, which I think is actually quite nice. I've swapped the fans around as I mentioned earlier, so all the cabling is down this side rather than the other side down there. I've got an LED strip there as well, which is going to be plugged in a second. So this cable here, these 2 cables here in fact, weren't quite long enough to go all the way down here and across where I wanted it to go, which is the way I've done all these cables here. Unfortunately, that's the path I had to take because that is the path of least distance to where it needs to plug in, which is somewhere behind there. So that's why that looks like that. But again, this is all going to be covered. You're not going to actually see anything of this, so I'm fine with that. You've got the supplementary ATX power connector or CPU power there routed down the end, which is where I think most people route theirs, down that way, or maybe they take it down there and then down through the center this way. I don't know. I normally take it down the end because there's normally enough gap there between the back of the motherboard tray and where the case actually attaches on. Hopefully that is true and I can put the side panel on. I haven't actually tried it yet, so we'll see what happens. That's pretty much it on that side. Let's go around the other side. So this section here is where the drive cages are. Unfortunately, it's all or nothing, as I said earlier, so the drives are actually down on this bottom part here. Unfortunately, this is needed to mount the drives to, so I couldn't just not have it. So that's why it's there. It needs a bit of a wipe off, but it is quite old. I've had it for quite a while. So this is what we've done on the inside. I think it looks pretty tidy. There's only a few cables, so the necessary cables that you can really see there. ATX power for the GPU obviously, and then the AIO tubes there going from the pump itself, which is there on this one, and then a 360 rad at the top. You can see the Noctua fans. All the fans are Noctua in this. And I have to say, I have powered this up, and I've obviously got to do some cable management, some fan management there, but they need a bit of tweaking because they were all on full speed, and to be honest with you, they were quite loud. I thought they were quieter than that, but I guess at full speed they would make some kind of noise, but I didn't expect that much noise. I've put these are little Velcro, so basically this is what I looked at earlier, and I said I was going to try and integrate this into the build. So what I've managed to do is the only place that I could actually find of using them is around that. Now, I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with how that looks. Let me know what you think in the comments down below and tell me if you think I should keep them or get rid. I'm 50-50 to be honest with you, so I will leave it in your hands to decide what I should do with that. Now, as we go down the bottom here, obviously we've got the cables, front panel, HD audio. Yes, that's still a thing, even on modern systems. USB 3, the chunky connection there, nearly knocked it off the table. And this is the RGB from the RGB strip that I showed you, so I've got to plug that in a second. One fan down there, the others are plugged in elsewhere, and then front panel I/O, which you can just about see if my hand stops it being blurry. So let's get the covers back on and get this thing fired up so you can see it with the panels on, and just make sure it all works. I'm pretty sure it does. Well, there it is. I think it looks pretty good. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm still not sure about the Velcro straps on the AIO pipes, tubes there. Like I said, let me know what you think and I'll rip them off. I 50-50 on that one, as I said a minute ago. I think it looks pretty good. I'm quite pleased with how it came out. Obviously the RGB's got to be configured or turned off depending on what I do, what mood I'm in and all that kind of stuff. And there's a sync issue with the RGB strip, ARGB strip on the front and the top part. You may have noticed that in the B-roll just a moment ago, in that they don't kind of line up where the lines line up on the front panel and the top part of the case. The colors don't quite line up right, so I'm gonna have to look into that. Not a huge issue, it's only me that's gonna see it anyway, but it's something that I would quite like to sort out. But the system's up and running and I can get to editing videos again. So it obviously worked because you're watching it right now. Anyway, if this has inspired you to do a simple, well, I say it's quite simple, a case swap is quite simple, or can be quite simple depending on your current build, the one you're coming from. Mine wasn't too bad. It was took a couple of days all in all, and I think it went really well. But if this inspired you, then give the video a thumbs up and then watch a couple of our other ones as well. We did as I said earlier, beginning of this video, we did an in-depth review or overview of this case. So if you want to know more about this specific case, the Vector RS from Fractal Design, then I really suggest you go and have a look at that one. It goes into more detail than what I've done in this video. This was just me taking the system, putting it in another system or case, bringing you along for the ride, because why not? I like this kind of stuff, so I hope you do too. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. We'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and we'll see you next time.